Live from the District of Columbia, you are listening to the Black Fundraisers Podcast, a weekly podcast that celebrates, inspires, and equips Black fundraisers to excel and positively impact Black communities. With your host, Kia Croom.
Good day, good people. Welcome to Season 2 of the Black Fundraisers Podcast. My name is Kia Croom, and I'm the founder and host of the Black Fundraisers Podcast, your weekly podcast that celebrates, inspires, and equips Black fundraisers to positively impact Black communities. If this is your first time tuning in, I want to welcome you into a growing global community of listeners and subscribers. And if you're a faithful listener, you already know what it is. Thank you for listening, new or faithful listeners. I know you got options in these internet streets, so I truly appreciate it. Good people, today's episode comes in recognition of Women's Equality Day, which we know marks the passage of the 19th Amendment, which secured and was intended to protect women's constitutional right to vote in America. But you and I know this wasn't true for Black women, who remained disenfranchised until the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which means Black women have only had the legally protected right to vote for half the time of some other women, according to Valethia Walker, Associate Professor of Africana Studies at Howard University. We know the efforts and contributions of Black female suffragists were completely omitted from narratives around the U.S. women's suffrage movement. I'm talking about those unsung Black female suffragists like Mary Church Terrell, Adela Hunt Logan, Ida B. Wells, and Harriet Tubman. And how ironic, on this 26th day of August 2021, the voting rights of people of color remain in peril. And we've all seen guerrilla-style voter suppressionist tactics play out over the last several months in retaliation for the Democratic victories we saw in the recent elections. According to the Brennan Justice Center, get this tea, good people, between January 1st and July 14th of 2021, at least 18 states have enacted 30 laws that restrict the access to the vote. These laws make voting and early voting more difficult, impose harsher voter ID requirements, make faulty voter purges more likely, among many other things. More than 400 bills with provisions that restrict voting access have been introduced in 49 states in 2021 legislative sessions. So on this day, y'all, I'm honoring those unsung Black female suffragists who've been putting their bodies on the line, fighting for centuries for voting equality, fighting for my franchise and your franchise. I'm also honoring those modern day Black female suffragists, as I call them, like Queen Stacey Abrams and LaTosha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, and all the Black female organizers and civil rights leaders, ordinary people, ordinary women who brought chairs, water bottles, snacks, to seniors and elderly people, and people in general who stood in line hours on end to cast their ballots in critical recent elections. I'm honoring Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, Melanie Campbell, Linda Sarsour, Dr. Jeanetta B Cole, and all the unsung Black female activists and civil rights leaders who've been being arrested for protesting voter suppression at the U.S. Capitol over the last several weeks. That's who I'm honoring on this day. And I encourage you to join me in making a charitable gift to Black Voters Matter today. And if you're in the DMV area, I encourage you to join me this Saturday at the Making Good Trouble rally, organized and hosted by Black Voters Matter at the Lincoln Memorial from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I've shared the event details in my show notes, but for more information, you can also visit makinggoodtroublerally.com and get specifics on the event. There's a concert, rally, details on parking. You can find all that info there. So in honor of all the fearless and dope Black women making things happen, I've got the dopest guest today, y'all. Ayris T. Scales, President and CEO of the Walker's Legacy Foundation and Managing Director of Walker's Legacy. She stopped by the Black Fundraisers podcast to share ways Walker's Legacy is cultivating women of color entrepreneurs, even in a global pandemic. Plus, we settle this grits debate for once and for all, y'all. Trust me, Ayris is a bad mama jamma, and you can find her bio and all of her social handles in my show notes. So without further ado, y'all, stand by as I bring Ayris to the Black Fundraisers podcast stage. Hello, Ayris. Welcome to the Black Fundraisers podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing.
Yes, glad to have you join us. I had been particularly interested in bringing you on, especially when I learned of your role. A sister been watching you in your new role as the president and CEO of the Walker's Legacy Foundation and managing director of Walker's Legacy. Tell the good people listening about this phenomenal organization, the work that you all are doing.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. I will tell you, these Walker Legacy days are unprecedented, like anything I've ever experienced, because there is such a need to support women of color entrepreneurs. But more importantly, there's a great interest and movement in supporting women of color, particularly Black women. So it's a really great time to be at Walker's Legacy. At our core, we are a digital platform that was established to inspire, engage, and equip women of color entrepreneurs all along their entrepreneurial journey. We are inspired and we are grounded around the unprecedented accomplishments of Madam C.J. Walker, the first self-made millionaire here in this country. And so we believe that there are many more Madam C.J. Walkers, that we want to bring our resources, our network, our brain power, all of our commitment to make sure that Black women, Latino women, other women can create their own legacies. And then we do have our social impact arm through our nonprofit, which does a lot of our research. It conducts many of our boot camps and accelerators specifically for young girls, young adults, and women who are low to moderate, but also have that enterprising and entrepreneurial spirit.
So I'm loving all of this, and I adore the legacy of Madam C.J. Walker, who was a self-made millionaire and also a philanthropist. I do a lot of talking on the Black Fundraisers podcast about Black philanthropy. Please don't. I be wanting folks to know, don't get it twisted.
That's right.
We're not new to this. We're true to this. So that is quite big shoes to fill. And you have this network of women all over the country.
Yeah,
I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that constituency. These are younger women, older women, all invested and interested in entrepreneurship, and they're participating in programming and courses and things. You want to talk just a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I like to say that we are a national organization that collaborates with global brands to drive local impact. And the reason I say that is we have programs, we have city directors, we have partners in 19 cities across the country. Definitely the impact of COVID and going virtual made the way that we roll out our programming and the way that we engage look a little differently. But nonetheless, we still have priority cities that we're focused on. And it's so crazy because recently because of being virtual, we actually just had a young lady who joined us from India in one of our accelerators that we were running for college students. We had someone who joined us from the UK. So it really does allow for our programming as well as our content to go globally. And I say wholeheartedly that entrepreneurship is definitely a tool, regardless of where you are as a woman, in which you can start to achieve the closing of racial and gender inequalities. And so we see micro enterprising, we see macro enterprising, we see mergers, we see partnerships, we see conglomerates change the lives of women all around the world. And so that gets me excited. It gets me fired up about what we do. So if you come to a Walker Legacy event in person or virtual, you can expect to hear from boss women. We've had Soledad O'Brien, we've had Beverly Johnson, Arlen Hamilton. I mean, it just goes on our Ask a Boss series. We have a series called Level Up, where we bring women who are like us, but also leveling up their game to share with us how they do it and to give us more inspiration. And then we have an accelerator, which is superior. It is the longest running for women of, I would say we're agnostic in terms of industry and revenue size. So we're one of the longest running accelerators here in the country, where we will take you through all the nuts and bolts of running your business successfully, scaling your business, being prepared to do a pitch, understanding how you market and position yourselves, and connecting with mentors and advisors along that 10-week journey. So I don't know, we do a lot because there's a lot to be done.
Yeah, it is a lot to be done. And there's something to be said about what women of color, particularly Black women, I'm unabashed about celebrating the achievements of Black women. We know that Black women are starting new businesses at a rate of, it was something in the ballpark of 5 times the rate of other races and other communities.
That's right.
We know that, and that's by just design of a variety of things, just the acumen, the hustle. We know the side hustle economy. We got sisters working full time, launching businesses, the whole nine. We know that we are not equitably paid.
That's right.
So in my mind, I don't think that a sister's supposed to turn down anything but her collar, as we say in California, in the Bay Area, where I'm from. I'm not turning my collar when it comes to fostering revenue streams and rounding out my income, right?
That's right.
So I'm all about it. I love it. And it's really what's fascinating about you and your career is just the journey. I recall when we first met, I think it was at the park in DC. This was some time ago.
It was the African American History Museum. Was
it? Oh, look, I got happy hour on my.
You got me out in the streets. No.
Get me together. Well, when we met, you left an indelible impression on me, and you were working with the Coalition of 100 Black Women, the DC chapter. And I remember thinking, okay, this is one to watch. This is a jazzy, buttoned up sister. You were all about it, and you've worked in these organizations. I mean, looking at your 20-year career in leadership, I'm aware that you served as the Chief Service Officer for Volunteerism and Partnerships and DC government. And you were the chartering, I stand corrected, the chartering president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women DC chapter.
That's right.
Yes, that is a remarkable accomplishment. And now in your current role at the Walker's Legacy Foundation and Walker's Legacy, I'm seeing some themes here around community building, uplifting women. And I'm curious, within your network, your constituents, and even some of the women you've had the pleasure of networking with as of late, what kind of feedback are you hearing from sisters, Black women in this space and time? How are they feeling about entrepreneurship?
All of that is, I think, interconnected in terms of talking about, community, the side hustle, and Black women looking now at entrepreneurship as an option. I think the same way we said that, from the beginning of time, we've been here as philanthropists, as demonstrated by Madam C.J. Walker. We've been here as Black women being the backbone, holding it down for our communities and this economy as a whole. And so when we see the impact of not even just, people are like, well, what's the impact of the pandemic on Black women? I'm going, first of all, we've been impacted long before the pandemic. It's just being magnified right now. And when we see that we are being pushed out of the workforce at the rate in which we're being pushed out, when we've seen that we've had to have a scale back in terms of opportunities, even further scaling back opportunities that were available to us, that side hustle is becoming women's primary hustle. The option of not having a job or having your side hustle as a secondary income is now becoming to the forefront. As we're having more conversations and I'm having more engagement with women, it is interesting the themes that have been coming up, particularly around mental health, self-care, and just being flat out tired and exhausted. And I understand that. And so when we have that coupled on top of the stress, on top of all of the additional burdens that we're carrying, the additional roles that we're holding down, you really cannot separate that financial health from that real physical and emotional and spiritual health. So one of the things that I'm really excited about is how we can further use our platform through our multimedia, social media, and partnerships, but also through our accelerator and our programming to start to infuse that kind of content into what we're promoting, to what we're pushing, and what we're building upon. The other thing is that, listen, we also know that no one can make decisions for us like us. And so we're saying, one, we want you, America, corporations, foundations, government agencies, and entities to hear us. We really need you to hear us. And then when you hear what we're saying, take that and apply it to your approach, right? Take that and support us where we are. And then you got to trust us if you're going to put us in these positions. So the same way we talked about Black women opening businesses at a faster rate than any other ethnic group in this country, we also know that our doors are closing faster. So don't just create a program or an opportunity to allow me to open my doors and then you don't support and trust me while I'm there, because then that's for naught. It's really right now, Black women are being extremely vocal about having boundaries and protecting their mental and emotional and social and spiritual health. And I love the way that sisterhood is growing and fostering and we got each other's back. Awesome. We need people to have our backs, to have their backs, but to also be able to take some of this stuff that we're carrying off of our plate so that we can invest in ourselves in the right way. Is that the tambourine?
Girl, I had to hit the tambourine on that one.
Get one of them.
Wait a minute, I didn't hit it once, I hit it multiple times because you said multiple things that resonated with my spirit. I love the fact that these women that you're engaged with are talking about self-care and mental health. I don't remember such an emphasis having been on those for us as a community. Really and truly, I'm hearing people check on folks okay, I'm concerned about, your mental health, just checking on you. And I think that we need to do more of that, right? I mean, I'm glad that we're there. And here on the Black Fundraisers podcast, we are always asking folks what their self-care regimen looks like, because we get it. You can't be $1 million industry, walking around here broke down, toe up from the flow up, from stress and trying to do everything. We got to take care of ourselves. We die at alarming rates. We know due to racial equities, we don't get equitable care in hospitals. Our mortality rate is higher. So we owe it to ourselves. So I'm really encouraged to hear that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised. I mean, we did our first listening tour with Goldman Sachs as part of the 1 million Black women investment that they're making, this $10 billion that they're investing over the next 10 years. And I was shocked when we had that listening tour. where the chat was just flooded with all things like mental health. And I said, oh my goodness, I thought people were going to come in here and talk about access to capital, additional support around financial management, understanding how to market myself. But really, we're going hard around the need to be supported with regards to like our health.
That is a beautiful thing. And then the feedback that you're sharing around listening, creating a sustainable infrastructure of support for Black woman-owned businesses, people of color in business. Don't open the pearly gates in 2021 or 2020 and then say in 2022, okay, you guys got enough money. You popped off some really, you had big things popping, but whoa, hold your horses. It's like, no, we need a permanent supports in place.
Absolutely.
For these entrepreneurs.
And I mean, we're here talking about philanthropy for our Black women who are leading these foundations, for Black women who are leading these organizations and nonprofits that are getting funded. I mean, we're such a minority, which is crazy because the issues that we're addressing through philanthropy and through the delivery of services with nonprofits, majority of those issues are impacting our communities, but we're not the ones necessarily leading those organizations. And so then when we do get the opportunities, because we don't have boards that are also reflective of us, or we don't have donors who understand the unique challenges that we face as women of color leading these organizations, we don't stay in those roles as long. We burn out. And it's like, oh, see, I gave Kia the opportunity. She couldn't handle it. It's like, no, it's not that I couldn't handle it. I didn't have the support. So how do you make sure that you're building that support but that you have the time to be able to build that support, right? That's where we often don't get, because we're down in the weeds doing the work because we don't have the resources, or we've been taught to work hard and not cultivate those other things that create that balance. I could be on that all day.
Agreed. And it's not just putting a person of color, a sister, a Black woman in a role and tying her hands. I hashtag all the time, companies have to trust Black women. You have to trust Black women, not just to come out to the polls and vote their conscience.
That's right.
Have to trust Black women to save the day in all the respects, and trust her to do her role. And I'm going to be doing an executive roundtable talking about this whole notion of the Black female consciousness and even other women of color in philanthropy. We're going to be the conscious moving forward.
That's
so
right.
Our voices have to be heard, and we have to have agency. And even in fund development and fundraising, that I've had almost a 20-year career in fundraising and fund development. Our voices have to be heard. And we have to have a seat at that table, and we have to be trusted. I've been doing a lot of research on Blacks in nonprofits and the racial leadership gap and the wage gaps. And we know that at our core, we are more passionate. We bring passion to the role and zeal. We have incredible lived experience. We are very close to community. Community is never too far from most of us, right? So we have all that we need to effectively execute, and we have to be afforded the opportunities and trusted to do so.
We absolutely.
So I'm curious about something else, and I want to share, because I know that you know Dr. Jeanetta B Cole. I adore her.
We all adore her. I mean, who does not adore Dr. Jeanetta B Cole or aspire to have that level of reverence? I know I do. I'm like, listen.
Listen, she visited the Black Fundraisers podcast and closed out our season 1 finale. And I was really touched by a tender moment she shared. And that was that Marian Wright Edelman, the founder and president emerita of the Children's Defense Fund, and Donna Shalala mentored her. Yeah, mentored her and encouraged her to, as she say, put my hat in the ring for the Spelman College presidency. And that's exactly what she did. And we know that, as she always says, the rest is her story, right?
That's right.
When I think about your leadership in these organizations, you being at the helm of them, serving women of color, how are you leveraging your position to influence and create opportunities for Black women to thrive?
I'm going to start with a bit of a personal piece before I answer that, because I love how you, Dr. Cole, referenced who her mentors were and how they encouraged her. And I've had people say to me, Ayris, how do you end up in these roles? How do you end up in these opportunities? And it's so cliche, but I'm serious. You never, ever know who is watching you. You never know who is already looking at you and considering you for something, or the kind of impression you're going to leave on someone, so that when that opportunity does present itself, they go, "Ooh, I know just the person." So even the role that I'm in now with Walker's Legacy, I've known the founder, Natalie Cofield, for years in passing. Like, we worked in very similar verticals, and I've known her both personally and professionally, but it wasn't like, hey, girl. And one day I randomly see her phone number pop up on my phone, like on a 7 o'clock at night on a Friday. And I'm going, I'm tired, but let me see. Natalie, hello. And she's like, I want to talk to you about something. And so, she goes into, without sharing a lot because she couldn't, I'm going to be transitioning and I really need, someone that's a visionary leader and is ready to roll up their sleeves and do the work. And I was like, okay. I hadn't thought about it. But when I really thought about it, I was like, absolutely. Why not? It's so aligned. And the same with the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. I tell people all the time, I showed up just wanting to be a member. I was happy to be in the room. I got the invite. I didn't expect to get a call from the national president to say, now we would like for you to lead the chartering of this organization, and then to be elected the chartering president. So when you asked me about leveraging the roles that I'm in to further create opportunity, I think first and foremost, and I give my coach credit for this, Ayris, how do you show up? Right? That is the very first thing for me, is always thinking about how I show up, because I don't want any door to be closed for another sister because I had an opportunity and I dropped the ball. Right. So when I show up, I make sure as much as possible that I'm prepared, I'm snatched, I've got my talking points, I'm in a good energy, but I'm also being informative and respectful, but I'm also pushing boundaries. So I really take the time to do the work to show up. And that takes a lot of time to prepare to go into a room. It really does. The other thing is, I always want to be a voice and not necessarily an echo. So if you're given the opportunity, I always try to find, what is my lane? What is my angle? How am I pushing this agenda forward in a way that is not hitting these people in the head, but that they can receive it? So I think about when I was in Chicago, I was the vice president of economic jobs and growth with the city's economic development arm. It was a private entity, but we oversaw all the development for the city of Chicago. And there was another Black woman who I respect and adore, very passionate, very articulate, dope, and unapologetically Black. And one time the CEO wanted some information presented, and I will never forget him saying to me, Ayris, can I get you to present the information? The delivery is a way that I think is more receptive to our corporate board members. And I was offended, but I was also honored, because the reason it was too much, right? So the way she was coming in the door was just going to be too much for these people to hear. But my thing is, you need to hear the truth no matter what, right? How it's delivered. But if you want me to deliver it to you, I'm going to still give you the same truth, but I'm going to deliver it to you in a way that, again, is not going to close the door for another sister to be able to be at this table. And then the last thing is back to mentorship. I try to be as transparent as possible about my life and my journey. The things that I've had to endure is no secret to people who really know me. I have a daughter that I had while I was in college. I've lived the life. I'll just say that. And so I make sure that I don't want other women who also have had to overcome certain barriers or certain things that people think about them to think that that is something that could prevent them from moving forward. So I do a lot around mentoring and a lot around transparency. And then the last piece is making sure that I'm connecting resources to what I'm trying to advance. So it does no good for me to get in the door, create opportunities for you to come in the door, and for me to mentor you up, but to not also make sure that I'm diverting resources back into organizations or back into the pockets of the women and the communities that I'm trying to serve. So I've raised over $50 million. I've been a steward of more than $300 million in grants and subsidies, hired more than 50 people. I think that that's a responsibility that I have. And when I'm given that opportunity, I got to deliver.
I love it. And I mean, it's a remarkable journey. And it's interesting because when I look over what I've accomplished in my career and those people that paid attention to me, or I garnered their attention or left an indelible impression on them, I don't know that I was so deliberate and intentional back then as I was now. But what I do know is that I was determined to show up and show up best, right? And prepare and present well. Those things that you mentioned earlier around making sure you got your talking points, you've done your homework. And I learned from my executive coach recently, shouldn't have been news to me, but it was, that I'm a person that processes and information and prepare. You learn how you show in your best light and rise to that occasion. And it sounds like you've done that. And I would just challenge and encourage people listening. Sometimes it takes more effort. Some days it may take more. It may feel like it takes you a lot. But do it. That consistency, people are watching whether they're saying something to you or not.
That's right. Unequivocally. So
I agree, and just celebrate. And I'm going to celebrate those wins, having administered those. You need to pop your collar.
Pop it.
You know, dust your shoulders off. $50 million and the philanthropy piece and just some really, really rich work. You've been blessed to have some really rich experiences. I'm really glad we were able to get you on here. True asset in every space you're in. I want to know, what's something you've accomplished or looking to accomplish in the near future that you're particularly excited about? What are you on fire about doing there? What can you tell us?
Oh, man. So some of what I'm looking to accomplish, though, is not that sexy. But given the nature of what we are discussing and who this audience is, this is a really key piece. I am super excited about the data. Listen, you want to raise money, you better have your data airtight. You better lead with your data. You better have that data be traceable back to your outcomes. You better get in front of these funders and make them understand it. And so when I look at the impact of what we have been doing over the last 10 years, and I'm looking at the data that we've collected, I'm really excited about how we're going to use it and how we're going to continue to evolve it, particularly as I'm listening to the types of questions that are being asked by donors and partners and corporations. So I said, okay, that is super critical. The other thing that I'm really excited about is right now trying to navigate and brainstorm through how do you begin to roll back out programming in this post-pandemic space. So much of Walker's legacy, so much of what our communities and our networks need is like that high touch, high interaction. We feed off each other, we build and network in person and collaborate. So that's how you do it. So we've been virtual, but now things are starting to lift up again. And so how to begin to roll that out into our 19 different cities. And I do say that it's been a blessing right now, the level of abundance of businesses and organizations who have been reaching out, wanting to partner and explore partnership opportunities. And so on one hand, you could be sitting here with no one wanting to talk to you, right? Or you could be chasing and knocking down doors. And so to have this influx is great, but that means I got to get the team up so that we could be responsive and supportive. So really looking forward to launching our programming in this kind of hybrid space across the country again, leading with our data, and just building off of the amazing partnerships that we have with like the Facebooks and PayPals and Gates and Kellogg and American Express. I could go on. It's really been a blessing and I'm excited.
Yeah, it sounds like something's about to really pop off here.
Something's about to really pop off. And then actually, oh my God, I can't even talk about it right now, but I got a really amazing opportunity that we're crafting right now with bringing all the different verticals together: public, private, philanthropic, political, just stay tuned. It's going to be major.
Stay tuned. You heard it, good people listening. Stay tuned. This is where I get nosy and have a little bit of fun when we get to the bonus questions segment of our discussion. I know you've lived in a lot of places, several cities across our great nation. And I've come to the conclusion that there are two types of folks in this world, and I'm counting on you not to let me down here. The two types of people are folks who put sugar on their grits.
It's hilarious.
And those who do not, the salt and pepper folks like myself. And I need to know, and butter.
And butter.
Salt, pepper, and butter. And I need to know, as do the good people listening, does sugar belong in grits? I need to know. I got both hands up.
Listen, when I was in grad school, I had a professor, Dr. Sermier, and he said, what is the answer to any question? And we rattled off a whole bunch of things. And then finally he said, no, it depends. So I'm going to say, when it comes to the grits debate, and we've had this debate, my line, hey, 78 Forces of Fortitude. They had this debate and I didn't chime in, but I said, sometimes I like salt and sometimes I like sugar, but for some shrimp and grits, there we go. But if I'm just eating a bowl of grits, I'm gonna have to put some sugar on that thing.
So for those of you that put sugar on grits, do you not? So you just don't like cream of wheat? Because I thought that was cream of wheat.
Is cream of wheat grits?
Well, it's, what do they call it? Semolina or whatever. Yeah, I remember seeing that because we used to get the generic cream of wheat and generic grits when I was a little.
Yeah, we didn't even get cream of wheat. And I didn't even have grits until like 2002 in Savannah, Georgia. And I definitely know that the first time I had grits, they were savory with some shrimp.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you a sister. People that go on my Instagram, they know that a sister throws down, and I do make quite a delectable, I had to throw one of those words in there, a delectable shrimp and grits, fit for a king and queen. It's very savory and delightful.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm sticking to what I said. I don't put it on there.
Okay. Well.
But anyway.
I'm not thinking both ways.
I know you did, and I just chose to just hang out there on that side, didn't I? As if you didn't say you like to have a preference.
Oh, Black folks and their grits debate.
I'm telling you, this is the topic of the century. So I'm excited because things are opening up a little bit with caution. A sister, I'm wearing my mask regardless. I don't care I don't
care what the government say.
I'm wearing my mask for now. I'm going to continue to wear like Michael Jackson. I'm wearing my mask just in my day-to-day affairs. And I want to be left alone. Mind your business, folks. But we're going into cookout season, and I don't know what that looks like in a pandemic. I know what it'll look like in my residence. The grill will be cracking and some other stuff. So under ordinary circumstances, let's forget about COVID for a moment. I want to know, what are you bringing to the cookout? Or what are you chowing down on at the cookout? What's your staple, your favorite cookout staple? Like the cookout just ain't hitting right. This entree is not on the picnic table or a table.
I'm from the Midwest, so we love a good cookout. However, and I am a health junkie. I was like, I'm gonna bring some fruits and vegetables. You're gonna get your kale and your sangria from me. And I want to see some fish on the grill.
Hello.
But a cookout is not hitting for me if there's just not some burnt hot dogs on the table, fresh off the grill. I love a burnt. So turkey, hot dog, fresh off the grill. That is my, I love a hot dog.
I do too. Are you a snob about your bread? Do you do the white bread if you don't have a hot dog bun? Or you just team hot dog?
I have some hot dog buns, and I want a hot dog bun that's split on the top, not the side. Like I want a special bun. That should be
that's right.
Too, so.
I know that's right. So you know how folks are about potato salad. Be a hit or a miss, and most of us are very persnickety about it. I gotta have me some good old baked beans, and I go back and forth with whether I need to have some beef in them or not, as long as they're just really, really good, one or the other. But you're absolutely right. I gotta have a hot link. I'll have a hot dog, but I gotta have a really good hot link, and I only need a hot link.
Is that like a sausage thing?
Yes, I only need a hot link once or twice a year.
Yeah, I only need a hot dog once or twice a year too.
Only once or twice a year. I can do, but it gotta be one of the red hot dogs. I mean, not hot dogs, hot link. It gotta be one of the red, it has to be hot and supple and delightful. And I'm so happy that, and really, I could just ride out with that. So I love them so much. Like I really, when I have that one or two encounters with that hot link, it's just like, it's like in Brown Sugar, the perfect verse over a dope beat.
That's how I feel about a good burnt hot dog. I need it burnt too. Like, yeah, that thing need to be grilled.
Oh, goodness. Listen, I've enjoyed hanging out with you.
I've enjoyed being on. Thank you so much.
I've enjoyed it, and I'm really excited for what's in store and these new program elements and new developments. I know that you're going to rock there. When I saw that you went there, I think I emailed you that same day. You got to get on the horn here.
Yeah.
I need to catch up with you. So I'm super proud of you. And we're rooting for you, rooting for everybody Black.
I know that's right.
Got going on, you know, so we support you and are just really, really thrilled with the work you're doing.
I appreciate it. I need the support. We all need the support. You were supportive as soon as I came on. I was like, oh my Lord, I don't got it together today. Like, you look beautiful, you good girl. Thank you.
Yes.
More of that.
Yes. Yes, it's true. It's true. Well, I want to thank the good people listening for this stream. You didn't have to do it, but you did, and I'm glad you did, and I hope you are too. Check out Ayris, look up the Walker Legacy Foundation and Walker's Legacy to keep up with what they have going on. I will share details around the organization and Ayris' bio in the show notes, so be sure to look out for that. And just be kind to yourself. You heard the good lady here talk about the themes around self-care. Be good to yourself. Enjoy some good weather, some good food, nourish your body, protect your peace and your mental health. Don't let nobody steal you. Don't look like the old people say, don't let the devil steal your joy. This week, next week, until we meet again, stay tuned, stay down, and keep your head up.
Thanks for listening to the Black Fundraisers Podcast. Like what you're hearing? Subscribe to the Black Fundraisers Podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and leave a 5-star review. Connect with Kia on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter to stay connected.
Hello, thanks so much for stopping by. I am Kia Croom, and I'm a fundraising professional and DEI champion. I am in pursuit of racial justice for people of color and communities of color. I'd love to explore ways we can work together to change the world.